So, Fred, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you. Nice to see you. So, you have been an active part of our community a while, and also we SNS have had the great pleasure to have you as a customer as well. So, feeling very privileged to talk to you today.
Oh, thanks for the time. I'm happy to be here.
Good stuff. So Fred, look, we've done a few of these shows. We like them to be a little bit autobiographical, but obviously then really getting into a little bit more detail about your view on the world, your view on tech and change and leadership and your role and what you're doing at your organization. So, but always good to start with a bit of an introduction on your good self, sir. So yeah, just for the listeners, do you want to give a view on who you are and what you do?
Sure. Well, obviously, my name's Frederick Kuzel, head of group engineering for Central Europe here in Tesco. Basically means I'm responsible for engineering center in Budapest and another one in Krakow. I started in technology for around Y2K. So I was involved in trying to fix the plethora of computers out there that had a Y2K bug. My career in technology goes back well before that. When I was 13, I started writing software. I don't know if you know, on the old Commodore 64s and Amigas. And I've just been a passionate technologist as soon as I could realize what a computer was, really. And that's just led me into a technology career. I've done e-commerce websites, medical equipment. I actually was a laser technician for a while for laser eye surgery and cataract surgery machines. And I've done a lot of different things in technology, but my real passion is software and managing software engineers and trying to add business value. And so I've found myself running software teams for Tesco, which allows me to capitalize on my skills and to try and bring my vision of what good looks like to teams.
Good stuff. And you've now wound up in beautiful Budapest.
I have, yeah. It is beautiful here. We're about 100 meters away from the Danube. It's a fantastic place to live. I can't complain.
Good stuff. No, yeah, I've enjoyed my trips to Budapest. It is a very nice city, and yeah, I've actually missed the summer there and some al fresco days and evenings. So cool. So obviously working for Tesco Technology now. You've been there 4, 5 years, more than that now, something like that.
4 years, 3 months, give or take.
Yeah. Good stuff. And
10
I know
days,
you've had
4 hours, 6 minutes.
You've had you've gone through a few different roles within the organisation, but I guess you joined when the Tesco Technology brand was really taking off, and I think there's a bit of an interesting backstory behind that, and maybe Tesco's journey within that. So, yeah, can you give us a bit of detail on how that emerged?
Yeah, sure. Well, Tesco has historically been an innovator. We were one of the first companies to do online delivery. We are actually the first company in the UK to do self-service stores. So we're talking going back to the 50s here, where you'd have a store where you'd walk in and pick something off the shelf yourself. So that was unheard of. It came out of America. And we've just been innovating ever since. The scan as you shop, the website, the delivery, barcodes on products, for example. I mean, we were one of the first people to do that in Europe. Getting a large number of suppliers to add barcodes on their products is not easy, and then getting computerized systems to support that, which of course then unleashes all kinds of power around discounts and how you actually get customers through the experience, the cashier. And more recently, things like trying to implement our cashless stores and our cashierless stores. So what's happened? Well, about 10 years ago, things became more challenging. And that's because almost everything we did was done by third parties. So you'd end up getting third parties to build your mobile app, a different third party to your website. You'd have a copy of your entire stack by region, so Central Europe, or sometimes by country. A country within Central Europe would have a completely different stack of the system representing the business and the business function than, say, the UK or Thailand or Malaysia. And all of this meant that it was extremely complex and expensive to implement features. You'd have to coordinate with 5 or 6 different software houses or companies or products that you purchased. off the shelf, and then you'd have to bring these together with an integration team. So we had a large integration center which spent a lot of time doing this. They also did software engineering as well, and they built some of our applications out in India. But it meant that every single time we tried to do any innovation, we were dealing with multiple vendors and project management hell, which obviously leads to a very brittle system with long lead times and an inability to innovate. So what we did is we started looking at how we can break down the business into much more manageable chunks and implement modern business value generating processes. We could call these lean learning organization. You can call it agile if you want, without the capital A preferably, so agility. And this took form in domain-driven design. So essentially we took Tesco as a business, broke it up into about 78 domains, and then further focused on about 32 of them, which I think has grown to 35, 38, which represents the product journey. And that's where things got exciting. So about seven years ago or so, started looking at hiring agile evangelists, individuals who are much more from the lean startup methodology, to come in and start building software engineering capability within Tesco that would iterate and create a learning organization heavily product focused with the user at the center to try and add business value as fast as possible. And this turned into those 38 domains, which is now largely live in the UK. So most of the UK is running off those domains. I think about half of our stores are operating on new tills that are operating on the new domain. It's touching every part of the user journey now in the UK, and we're progressively rolling it out to the rest of the world.
Excellent. No, and I think we've talked a lot before about how you can't buy differentiation, and I think
Yes.
that's core to the strategy there. And so and a lot of people do try to put technology at the heart of their strategy, and not necessarily realize the benefits of that straight away. But are you seeing that now at Tesco, and are you starting to see the benefits of that strategy?
I would say yes. Look at Club Card Plus. So we've introduced Club Card Plus from the idea to the deployment with full marketing campaign was 4 months. That's incredible. And that's fundamentally changing how people engage with the stores. That's changing how they engage with the mobile company, changing how they engage with our bank. So Tesco is a large organization. It's not one, it's dozens. And to have someone have an idea, and then you build that across, 30 different teams, and get a product out and live with users subscribing in 4 months, backed by a full marketing campaign, the answer is yes. We're realizing the benefits.
Yeah, excellent. And I guess fast forward a little bit, it's been a big year for everybody, to say the least. So if you're listening in the future, we're in the end of October 2020, and it's been an interesting year for everybody during the pandemic, but especially for food retailers, obviously, with the with the impact that's had there. So I guess leading on from having this, technology at the heart of your strategy has probably enabled you to kind of pivot this year. And how has Tesco adapted this year to the pandemic?
Well, the pandemic's obviously been extremely challenging. The most obvious case of our improvement is within 4 weeks of the pandemic shutting down most of the world. We had spun up multiple new distribution centers. We went from 600,000 deliveries a week to 1.2 million in the UK. I think, not to quote a competitor, but I think we added double the equivalent of an Ocado business, and that was just additional. So we have economies of scale. We hired 3,000 drivers, give or take. Now, don't quote me on these numbers because obviously don't have them written down in front of me. But we purchased about 800 vehicles, lorries. It was just incredible to try and do that in 4 weeks, open up multiple new distribution centers. We hired 35,000 colleagues in total. It's incredible what we were able to mobilize, and that is all about focus, vision, and a common goal. And we had that in spades. And if you look at the brand reputation that occurred on the back of that within the UK, it was absolutely incredible because we could act when other people couldn't. And that was on the back of our technology stack. Yeah.
Excellent. And I mean, it's quite interesting. I think we've seen a lot of digital transformation acceleration this year, I guess, whatever form that comes in within companies, and companies needing to change. I know there's a host of memes out there around, what's driving your digital transformation. Is it your board or your CIO, or is it COVID? So there has been an acceleration. So Tesco's doubled online deliveries this year, is it, or doubled capacity? Is that correct?
Doubled. Well, when you say capacity, yeah, we doubled deliveries. I mean, our slots are always full. We can just keep adding. As a matter of fact, we're more than that now. We're heading towards 1.5 million deliveries a week, and our goal is to just keep increasing that number.
What do you think? Do you think that would have happened anyway? Is the pandemic just accelerating consumer behavior that would have happened?
Yeah, these plans were all in place. I mean, that's another reason why we were able to act on it, is that we had a 2 or 3 year plan to increase online presence, to increase the automation within our distribution centers, to optimize fulfillment. You have to realize fulfillment's incredibly expensive. The last mile problem is not a joke. It really does hit the margins of any business. Amazon retail doesn't make much money at all, and if you look at Ocado, they only started making money recently. So most businesses lose money with deliveries. It's just so expensive to do the fulfillment piece with the stock management, the warehouse management, getting the items the customer wants in the time frame they want, right? And bringing that all together and having it sent to their house. It's incredibly complex and incredibly expensive.
And I'm presuming, I know there's a focus now on optimization around that journey now, and looking at how customers can be better served, but also how margins can be increased.
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, the most obvious is the drones you're hearing about in the news now. Tesco experimenting with drones. There's also quite a few projects happening in the background that I'm unable to discuss around our fulfillment capabilities. That's one area I can't go into. But watch this space, exciting things happening.
Good stuff. And yeah, I guess so. Tesco, like you said, been on the front foot with innovation. I've read some interesting stuff as well around the Tesco Red Door initiative and trying to connect with other companies that cause disruption in the future, and some cool stuff that's going on. Looking past this year now, what's the strategy? It'd be interesting to think, right, 5 years time, Amazon's coming to eat the lunch of most industries, and very much food retail. So, how are Tesco going to keep adapting to changing consumer needs? And I guess leading on from that, who do you see as your biggest competitors in 5 years' time? Will it be the traditional players, or what's your view on it?
Well, I mean, look, food retail doesn't change that fast. So when you're saying in 5 years' time, I would say yes, it's probably the same key competitors we have now. In the premium space, you've got Waitrose, Marks and Spencers. In largely our space, you have Sainsbury's and Asda, perhaps a little bit less Asda, but Sainsbury's. And then if you look at the discounters, you have Lidl and Aldi. All these people are really the bricks and mortar stores, and they're definitely our competition. The up and coming and is really the online. Ocado has been around, but they're not a very big player. And Amazon Fresh, obviously trying to come in and disrupt the market. And any of those retailers who don't have an online presence now, and just check the news and you'll see that there's quite a few that are struggling or have had recent shifts in strategy. They're going to be struggling in the next 5 years. It's those incumbents or the innovators who are going to be in a much better position in 5 years. So I would say we are looking at Amazon Fresh. We are looking at Ocado and what they're doing, but they're really positioning themselves as a technology provider as opposed to necessarily, and they may disagree with me, I don't know the strategy, as an actual retailer. So I do see Amazon as being more of a threat. And we're trying to compete, this Trigo relationship with the organization called Trigo. We've purchased a percentage of their company. Anyone online can read about this. And we have experiments running where we're running in stores with cashier lists, for example. And so, we're heading towards a very different future. So I'm not that worried about how Tesco is innovating. We are focused on innovation. Tesco has a very strong Tesco Labs as well. So not only do we have a dedicated team focused on innovation, but it's at the core of our technology, period. We're innovating everywhere. Our software engineering specifically, the innovation team, the product-focused engineering, when I started 4.5 years ago, it was 160 people. We passed 450, now we're heading towards 800. This is what the Polish engineering hub and the Hungarian engineering hub really are about. It's about this innovation. So I do see competitors. I do see the landscape changing. I do see it changing slowly. And I absolutely think that we're in front of that curve.
And do you see, off the back of that, the same kind of brand loyalty coming through? So we've been talking a lot recently about Gen Z, about 40% of all consumers being Gen Z, and they don't have the same brand loyalty. They don't think about what brands did for them yesterday. They're quite happy to find a different provider quite quickly. So how can you be so confident that this growing market of people will continue to use Tesco? I mean, if you look at fashion retail, I think that a lot of those companies are really having to think about the experience and how they sell.
Sure.
Do food retailers need to do the same? Maybe they don't. I don't know. Maybe because it's quite a commodity that they need. It's a necessity. People need food. They need the basics and the FMCG type goods. How can you ensure that people will still maintain that brand loyalty to Tesco?
I think you might have answered your own question. Food retail is a bit different, right? So if you look at fashion, it's very emotive. It's what am I going to wear? It's a visual representation of you. And therefore, they don't have the scale either, the scale of the organization. And therefore, people are much more willing to sign up and log into multiple different sites to get that one particular item they're looking for. And then maybe they were happy registering the 30 different companies. You get that much less in online food retail. So there is consistent brand loyalty, and maybe that will change a bit with the next generation. They're certainly much more computer savvy and tech savvy, I would say, in general. And in order to keep their loyalty, you have to have a really good user experience. So you need to really be on it in terms of your user experience for the applications, the online presence. I think we do need to really focus on how we do branding around the online space and how we actually optimize delivery, because that's really important. Heading towards same-day delivery and on-demand delivery, that's really important for the next generation, is how fast can you get them the products they're looking for. But do I see a brand issue? It's an interesting question. When I look at products, I look at a large brand starting to dominate, like Amazon, for example, in the marketplace, if you would. Their growth, their sales are incredible, and the growth in their sales is incredible. And I think when it comes to brand loyalty, it's really about the user experience. And individuals in Tesco, they tend to buy 80 to 100 items in a purchase. They're not buying one or two shirts. They're looking for, as you said, the staples, the basics. They want to buy the heavy items that they don't want to go to the bricks and mortar store to pick up. They want to get their water delivered. They want to get their wine or food delivered, the dry goods, let's say. And then they'll go into the store for the fresh goods. And I think that's where you have to have a good in-store experience. You're almost making an experiential store, if you would. which becomes a very different beast than what we see these days. And that's why you're getting a lot of the smaller stores providing ready-made food. So you can go in, you can actually get a roast chicken already cooked. Like, so you're seeing changes in behavior, and I think that will continue. But I'm not an expert in how this evolves. I'm a technologist, and I will never claim to be an expert. But I think we're also positioning ourselves well in that regard. We're definitely cognizant of it.
No, it's good. And yeah, I think there's wider things. I think I read you're trying to increase sort of plant-based, vegan meat sales, and stuff that you're doing around sustainability and all that important stuff that is important to everybody, but especially the up and coming generation as well.
I would actually argue we're some of the market leaders in this. We're reducing food waste in the I don't want to quote numbers, but hundreds of tons a year. We're giving away food to charities. We have dedicated applications where food that's coming close to expiration but there's a difference between human consumable and left on the shelf. So we have to look at moving something off the shelf, but it's still consumable by humans. And therefore, we actually have a portal that charities can log into and register, and then they can schedule pickup times, and they come and pick up that food. Our food waste is dropped. I don't want to quote numbers, but a large amount. Let's say,
Go on, quote a number. Go on.
Oh, well, 80 to 90%, I think, in Central Europe. I don't know. In the UK, it's down dramatically. Look, all of this is available on our website. We are doing massive amounts for sustainability. We're trying to reduce deforestation in the Amazon. We have initiatives around that. We're trying to go carbon neutral. Dave Lewis did a lot for Tesco in terms of trying to build our reputation and trying to build our relationship with not only the environment, but people in society and the community. Tesco is really focused on what our customers would like to see, not just now, but in the future, and where we need to be. And we're positioned that way.
Good stuff. So I think it'd be nice to pivot now a little bit, Fred. Probably go back to a little bit more around technology and product. I think you said something quite interesting about this transformation that Tesco went through to become more domain driven and domain driven design. And you did say it like it just kind of happened, and I'm sure it didn't just happen. I'm still sure you're still trying to make it happen. And
not done.
And I know we talk a lot about companies moving to more optimization or optimizing around customer journeys and optimizing around their users. But it is a lot easier said than done, especially in large enterprises that have maybe got certain
Conway's Law
systems and structures in place.
Sure.
So how have you found that journey? I know it's an ever evolving journey, right? So so whether you're talking about Tesco here or just talking a bit more generally, it'd be good to get your your view on this. But how can what are the fundamentals to put the customer at the heart of product development?
Yeah, we'll start with why. I mean, start with Simon Sinek, right? It's easy to quote people like that, or the 5 whys, Roy Oshrov. There's lots of people that are better than I that have articulated how to do this. But you need to have the customer at the center and product at the center. So things like doing user focus groups, having personas. Personas are logical groupings of human behavior, identifying what those target audiences are looking for, and then creating KPIs around changing business metrics, like improving user experience. How long does it take to satisfy a customer's need? How long is the time between when they stand in a queue at a till or a cash machine, or a cash register, sorry, until they get through the other side? So measuring things that matter to people. That's really what you care about. And so it's shifting the mindset to focusing on metrics related to human experience and metrics related to business, as opposed to metrics related to delivery of X, the program or project view of the world, right? Because that's not the fastest way to success. That's the expert opinion way. And we all know that expert opinions aren't always backed by evidence.
No. And when that flows down now into your, you know, your ways of working as an organization, especially in a large enterprise, you know, where you've
Yes.
got, you know, perhaps more traditional hierarchies in place, or, you know, a traditional waterfall in place, a waterfall approach in place, you know, how do you get this evolved? How do you get, you know, product working with technology in a seamless way? And you know, where have you seen that work, and where have you seen it not work?
Oh, well, within Tesco specifically?
Well, it's up to you. It's up
Yeah,
to
okay.
you.
So I think, look, I've done quite a bit of work with startups, or some work with startups. I wouldn't say quite a bit. The company that I think did this the best in my career was a company called Decision.tech, and they're in the price comparison space. But it was completely focused on add value as fast as possible, growth hacking. So try 10 different things, try to innovate, and never be afraid to fail. And Elon Musk does this with SpaceX. As a matter of fact, I think if you look at some of the things he says, it's stuff like, if you're not innovating, you will have a problem keeping your job. If you're not failing, then you are not innovating enough. And I think that's where you get real success, because it's hard to predict the future, which means you need to try many different things, identify those that are working and capitalize on them. So what does this mean? This means things like increase online sales by 3%. There's your challenge to the team, right? If you were to get 2 marketing people, 2 or 3 business product people, and then an engineering team together, and you just said, guys, here's your challenge: increase sales, reduce delivery time by 10%. Here's your fulfillment people. Here's you grab some vehicle drivers from the lorries, right? Get them into a room. So get as close to the users as possible. And that's been incredibly successful for them. And I think that's a very, very, very successful model. Tesco, we're trying to do things like that. So you mentioned it's really complex in large organizations and enterprises. Yes, yes, it is. It's extremely difficult. So we're trying to do things like that. We're trying to push autonomy and mastery into the teams. So you do get in a situation where you have probably 100 engineering teams in Tesco. What happens when you need work done by other teams, right? Do you put it on their backlog? Is our whole prioritization hierarchy, is it aligned? Well, yes and no. So how do you get your work done? How do you focus on your addition of business value with product? Well, we do internal open source, which means that everyone's work can be iterated on by anyone else, right? And you need to prioritize their pull requests. So the work they do, you need to prioritize that in your time. So they're doing you a favor. They're working on your system for you to solve their challenge instead of giving you the work, right? Well, prioritize signing off their work so that they actually have a satisfactory experience with you as a customer. And that's another developer. You may work with them tomorrow. And so internal open source, that's really helpful. Anyone can work on any work from any team. That does help do that. Autonomy and mastery. So in Tesco, some teams have complete ownership in the team for the vision and the roadmap, and other teams are part of a much larger organization. For example, the finance team, right? And they have set releases. You only want to release around the change of the financial year, right? Because obviously you need to align with changing laws, etc. And therefore they are much more rigid and structured. So it is challenging. You need to actually have a bottom up and a top down approach. You have to want to do this. You have to influence the key stakeholders, and then you have to hire for success. Get the people that want to do that way of working. Bring them in. Have senior opinionated people, right? Start herding the cats and drive it in the right direction.
No, and I agree. You know, it's a lot of it is it's people, it's culture, you know, it's behaviours, it's ways of working, not necessarily organisational design. But you touched on a good point there, which might be a good place for us to kind of start to conclude on. But you mentioned the role of leadership there, and obviously you've been in leadership roles for a number of years now, Fred, and you've worked with a number of boards as well. And we're in challenging times. There's a lot of boards that are having to be brave at the moment and make big decisions. So it's quite an interesting subject, and I know we could go on it for a while. But where have you seen good leadership? What does good leadership look like for you? And maybe that comes from you with the team, but also from a board standpoint, from an executive standpoint as well.
I think Dave Lewis gave very good leadership. I think we've had very good leadership in Tesco, and that's at multiple levels in the organization. The tech leadership's been fantastic. Edmund Mesrobian, Hus Deckers, Jesh. We've been very fortunate. We've had a really strong engineering leadership in Tesco since I've been here, and that's key. It's about driving down ownership and accountability, and having individuals who are open to feedback and open to being challenged and are willing to listen and then give measured responses. What more can you ask, really? It empowers you to feel like you can help change the business. So I'm inspired by our current leadership, absolutely. I've been inspired by historical leadership. I've been very fortunate. I spent a lot of effort on my personal network. So I have quite a few friends who are C-levels in multiple companies, and I have a lot of people who've inspired me. And I wouldn't say my personal leadership's fantastic. It's not bad, but I certainly know people who have fantastic leadership.
Who's inspired you the most, Fred?
Inspired me the most. Eliyahu Goldratt. I don't know if you know him.
I do.
But he's
So the goal,
yeah. But I mean, his work that predates that. Like,
right.
you need to really know go to critical chain, theory of constraints. I mean, he basically invented the theory. This is the beginnings of lean software engineering. This predates it. This is what, I mean, you can go all the way back to Japan if you want in Demings, but in the recent times, Eliyahu Goldratt fundamentally changed how American manufacturing is done as well. And it was all his principles that led into lean software development with the Pop and Dix, with the Phoenix project. I can't remember the author at the moment. But yeah, it's all gold. If you can go into Eliyahu Goldratt's training videos, there's about 30 hours if you have the patience. I've watched them all. You can buy them at, I think, Theory of Constraints or something. But it's all wonderful stuff, and no one's influenced me more than him and his successors on the journey to Agile and Lean.
Cool. There's some good recommendations to finish on there. Final question, Fred, and we ask this to most people. 2020 has been a trying year, but an interesting year. What's exciting you about the future, business-wise, technology-wise?
The most exciting for me, AI writing code. Yeah. So I think it's 3GPL. I can't remember the name of it. That's the most exciting for me. Let's start solving business problems. Let's start abstracting the complexities of the internal logic of software. I can't wait for that to happen. Maybe it's 20 years away, but fundamentally the world will change overnight when we can actually describe a system with words and have it built for you. Exciting times, Matt.
Will AI totally overtake or replace traditional software engineers?
Yeah, of course it will. I mean, the question is the time frame, but it has to, right? Are we talking 100 years though? So right. How long did it take for the plane to override the sailing ship or the tanker ship? I mean, it hasn't happened really, right? How long before? Something always changes. Yes, it will overtake it. I'm not saying it's going to happen in my career. Hopefully I'll be retired by then.
Yeah, exactly. Good man, friend. Well, look, I really enjoyed that. It's been good to talk to you, and enjoy your day in Budapest, sir.
Thank you. Enjoy London. I don't know if it's raining, but enjoy it.
Thank you, mate. Cheers, Fred.
Thanks. Bye.